Here are the 12 teams that I believe will reach the college football playoff as everything stands right now entering week 7. So, Texas, they lost to Florida, kind of got the doors blown off of their roster by the Gators. Penn State, I didn't think after that Oregon game was even going to make the playoffs based on how Indiana and Ohio State looked and how Penn State looked against Oregon. But losing to UCLA further solidified my belief that, yeah, this Penn State team probably isn't going to reach the playoffs. And I changed my mind on some other things as well. Before I continue, liking the video, watching the video all the way through, and commenting your thoughts down below are the best ways to support the channel as they help push me into the algorithm, help me to receive a larger paycheck that I can use to reinvest in producing elite analysis for you all. Subscribing to the channel, hitting the notification bell, sharing the video around, and supporting us in other ways that you can find out via the description are other awesome ways to support our operation at College Football with Sam. We are becoming the best. We want to be the best. Thank you all for making that possible. But let me just show you the rankings here anyway. How I think that this is all going to shake out. So entering week 7, these are the teams from seeds 12 to 1 that I think are going to participate for the national championship trophy. So at 12th, I have Memphis winning the American. I think Memphis will win the American. Think that they will be the G5 representative. I have USC going 10-2. Beating Michigan this weekend is my prediction. We'll see if I'm right. I think they'll lose to Oregon, but beat Michigan, Notre Dame, Nebraska, Iowa. I think when healthy, and it sounds like they're getting healthy, that they're a top 15, top 10 team. They'll be represented here, playing on the road. I got Michigan also at 10-2, occupying the 10th seed, losing to USC, but beating everyone else, including highly touted, power-rated number 1 and ranked number 1 across the board, the Ohio State. I have Oklahoma at 9th, going 10-2, losing to Texas and Alabama, but beating everyone else. Finally getting to some of the home teams, I have a rematch going on in the 8 versus 9 seed game. So I think Missouri beats Alabama this weekend. Their only loss is going to be to Oklahoma on the road later in November, and they'll host Oklahoma in a playoff game, in a first-round playoff game. They'll stand at 11-2, losing to Oklahoma later in the year, and then to the SEC champion that we'll get to in a few minutes or seconds. At 7th, I have Indiana going 11-1, losing to Oregon, but beating everyone else, including Penn State, Purdue, Michigan State. Not really many notable teams left on the schedule after Oregon outside of Penn State, but I have them beating Penn State and everyone else but Oregon. At 6th, I have Georgia, 11-1. They lose out due to tiebreakers to Missouri, so they'll go 11-1 but not play in the SEC title game. That's because Missouri beat Alabama, but Georgia did not, so they have a common opponent in which Missouri beat and Georgia didn't, and per the rules, that will push Missouri to Atlanta, and Georgia won't go to Atlanta. And then my 5th seed's Ohio State. I have them losing to Michigan at the end of the year and then losing in the Big Ten Championship game to the Big Ten champion, who we'll get to here shortly. Looking at the first round buys for my college football playoff predictions, Alabama, SEC champion, 11-2. They're going to lose to Missouri per my predictions. We'll see if I'm right again. Could very well be wrong. They'll lose to Missouri, but then win out, and they will beat Missouri in a rematch in Atlanta. 3rd, I have undefeated Texas Tech. They're going to kill everyone. Per dominance metrics, they might be the best team in America at the end of the year, but again, that's just per dominance metrics. If you factor in the strength of schedule they play, I don't think they'll be the best team in America. That D-line with, Lee Hunter and David Bailey and Romello Height is insane, and then Jacob Rodriguez behind them at linebacker. If they're going to go undefeated, own the Big 12, they could be a threat in the playoffs. Seriously, they could beat someone or two with the talent they have and how they've been playing ball. Number 2 is an undefeated Miami. Florida State, I think, was one of their final tests of the year. Don't see anyone else who is going to beat them. Doesn't mean someone won't beat them, but as of right now, I don't think anyone will. And then number 1 is Oregon. Oregon, I have them winning out. They'll beat Indiana. They will beat Washington on the road. They'll beat Ohio State in a rematch of the Rose Bowl game and the Big Ten championship game to be the Big Ten champion back-to-back, and that means they wouldn't have lost a regular season game since 2023, which is pretty insane. So now that we have that out of the way, I want to turn my attention to talking about for a few seconds each these matchups and how I think they would go. So I think Ohio State would destroy Memphis. No brainer there. I do think that Missouri being at home, and with Missouri, I believe they're deeper than Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma, and this is something that I think they have in common with their ex-head coach, Lincoln Riley, his team in USC. They're very thin. Starting roster-wise, if healthy, they're one of the best rosters in America, but depth is a major concern for them. I think Missouri's deeper. I think Missouri's one of the few teams that could handle Oklahoma in the trenches, and they play host to them. I just think Missouri would win that game close, move on to play Oregon in the Rose Bowl. Georgia hosting USC, I kind of think that's a no-brainer too. For Oklahoma and USC, the longer the year goes on, the harder it will be for them to play to their ceiling because of their depth. Georgia hosting them with the time zone travel, the coaching edge, the roster edge, that home field advantage, that's a Georgia win right there. And then Indiana against Michigan. Michigan will get better as the year goes on, kind of the inverse, I think, of USC and Oklahoma. But Indiana, I think, is so far ahead of Michigan and most of the teams, even in this bracket, that with home field advantage, they would beat Michigan. They would be handily better than them and control them throughout all four quarters and all phases of the game. So the quarterfinal matches would be Ohio State, Alabama in the Sugar Bowl, Missouri, Oregon in the Rose Bowl, Georgia, Texas Tech in the Cotton Bowl, and Indiana, Miami in the Orange Bowl. Let's see how I think these play out. So I believe Alabama would beat Ohio State in a very close game. The logic behind that is I think that Kalen DeBoer is probably the best head coach in the country when it comes to game planning against top teams. There's a reason he's undefeated against Kirby, Sark, and Lanning. And I think that Simpson and that offensive line and pass pro and wide receiver group is good enough to get some throws on Ohio State. Meanwhile, I believe Alabama's defense, they're awesome when they don't have to play a mobile QB. Guess who's not a dual threat QB? Julian Sayin. Like in high school he was, in college he's not dual threat. He'll have things against this Alabama defense. This will be a very competitive game, but I'm siding with Alabama here. Oregon beating Missouri, I don't think needs much explanation. Just look at the dominance metrics. Oregon would be favored by double digits. They'd probably win by more than that and cover the spread. Georgia, Texas Tech is fascinating. Texas Tech's been playing better than Georgia, but I know Georgia inherently has more talent and better coaching, so I sided with them there in the Cotton Bowl. But I really considered picking Texas Tech to win that game. Indiana and Miami's very tricky, similar to Ohio State and Alabama. I think Cignetti is a better overall coach than Mario Cristobal. I think Indiana's staff is superior. And Mendoza, we'll see if he's better than Carson Beck. Right now I would probably say yes, but I don't know because Carson Beck's been balling out and he's confident. Miami is the more talented team here, but Indiana's been playing better, looking at the efficiency metrics. And they've taken a larger rise in the power ratings. And if I'm right about Indiana being able to scale against talent in a much better way than they did last season, I think that they would be able to get some things against this Miami secondary. And I don't think that Miami offensively would have a fun time against this Indiana defense. So Indiana plays Georgia in the Peach Bowl. Oregon plays Alabama in the Fiesta Bowl. All Big Ten national title. I think that to this point, not saying at the end of the year, to this point, Oregon is better than Alabama and Indiana is better than Georgia. Again, if I'm wrong about the talent scaling thing, then disregard anything I say about Indiana here. But I think at the end of the year, this is going to remain the case, based on what I've seen. I don't think that Georgia quite is the upside of an Ohio State, Alabama, or Oregon, so they'd have a harder time challenging Indiana than, say, those other three. And I think Oregon has more room to grow, as I've mentioned before, than almost any team in college football. And they already have the argument to be number one by power ratings or even by strength of record. So they're going to beat Alabama in the Fiesta Bowl. And as for the national champion, I think Oregon's going to win it all at this point. They will go 16-0, according to current projections that I have. They'll beat Indiana, who will fall to 14-2. Is it likely that we're going to see a 16-0 national champion based on what we saw last year? Probably not. But also based on how this year has gone so far with Ohio State, Miami, Oregon, there's a chance that the national champion this year has fewer losses than last year, and I think that the odds of that are actually favorable. Ohio State and Oregon will be favored in all their remaining regular season games. One of them will be favored against each other if they win out in Indy, and even if they don't. So I have Ohio State, Indiana, and Michigan all tied for second in Big Ten standings. Ohio State actually won out in terms of tiebreakers based on how I read it. So I think the chance of an undefeated national champion or a one-loss champion as opposed to last year's two-loss champion in Ohio State, there's a chance that this year's champion has fewer losses. And with how Oregon's played, the easiness of their schedule compared to some of these other contenders, and the fact that they are young and have a lot of room to grow and yet look this ridiculously good, gives me confidence that they will be the best team in the nation when it's all said and done. Those are my Week 7 college football playoff predictions. As of today, as of Week 7, national title game will be a rematch of Oregon versus Indiana. Thanks for watching this video. Make sure, if you haven't already, to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, comment your analysis and thoughts down below so I can reciprocate my thoughts with you in the comment section, and check out anything on these end screens that are up here. Whether it's a recommended video or playlists for teams that I'm talking about in a preview, prediction, or a reaction, make sure to hit the notification bell on those, scroll through them, and watch any suggested videos if you are interested. Thank you for helping College Football with Sam become the best and the biggest college football brand and channel on YouTube and other social media platforms. We will reach that one day because of your support.